Okay, that we had a lot of references to God, and we said, our Father, our King. So you might remember that if you were in services this year or in past years, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, right? Verse after verse of addressing God in that way. So the question is, I always thought about it from the perspective of like like God is Father, that meant we're taking out the sexist ideas, just the idea of what does father mean? It means it's like the person who cares about you, assuming a good relationship. Your father is the one who loves you and wants to give to you. And so we're addressing God in that way. You're our Father, so like give us income, give us good health. We know you love us. And King is about the one who has the power to make something happen. Like the king has the power, has the province, all of the resources are in the king's hands. So that's the ideal combination. Who do you want to address? You would really like to address the one who loves you the most, and also the one who has the power to do something. So it's great if somebody just loves you, but if they don't have the resources to really help you, hello, Wendy, if they don't have the resources to really help you, so that's not so much helpful. If somebody has the resources, but they don't really care about you, then you're probably not going to really be in the flow. So addressing God as Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, puts those things together, our source and the person and the one who has mastery over all resources. But now we're going to talk about Father in a different way. What is the Father? And we're going to start with just the basic physiological process, not having to do with any of today's definitions of who is what and all of that. And the basic definition is, what does the Father contribute to the birth process? What is the Father's contribution? What is the Father? The sperm. The sperm. And what is sperm? What is it? It is, I'm sorry, say again, Dorothy?
Well, it's half the person.
It's okay, it's half the person. It represents the whole person of the Father, right? It's right. The Father. What the sperm is this mass of, we're going to say infinite. We're going to come close as we can say to infinite potential of an expression of the Father's essence, right? So if we were to take a sperm and analyze it, how many thousands of people could be created with the sperm of the Father? Now, I watched a Law and Order show a real long time ago when I was addicted to that. And there was a problem because there was a man who was running, a doctor who was running a sperm donation clinic. And he himself was the donor for all of it. So he was making money off of everybody. And the only reason they figured it out is because there was some sort of a health problem that developed in the community or in the surrounding communities. And they traced it that all of the people had the same father. But like, how could that be? Because these are people who were not related to each other until they found out they were all people where the mother had received sperm donation, and it was all from this one doctor who had this underlying health issue, and it was showing up in these people. So that was the nature of it. So it was like a criminal thing. That was the case. So how many children could a father actually create? So theoretically, it's almost infinite, right? Because anytime, anywhere, we can have lots of potential. The Father's sperm represents the potential for the expression of the Father in the world. That's what that is. It is received by the mother. And what does she represent? She's not going to have all that sperm come into being. It's going to be like one, maybe two. Okay. She's going to receive one and then contribute her part to it from her egg. And then it's going to be concretized into a person who is a manifestation of that father's expression and the mother's expression. into one unique thing that becomes real in this world. Without the mother providing the concretization of that father's potential and his expression, it has no reality in this world. It's just potential out there, right? So does that make sense, that metaphor of how that works?
Yeah.
So now let's go back to our Father, our King. If we say that God is our Father, what does that mean? That means that God has given us, like put out into the world, not just the trees and the birds and the bees and the animals and the plants and the stars and the moons, but God's expression of God's self is in each one of us. God has given God's self to each one of us. Now, sometimes people talk about we have a spark of holiness in us, a spark of God. It makes it sound like a little kind of off to the side, barely there thing that's just maybe in action, but not like, what does that even mean? But when you say that God's reality itself is in us, has been given to us, but in a way, God is powerless. That's the catch. The infinite creator of the universe is powerless in making his expression a reality in this world without a mother. So whether we are a man or a woman, the human being becomes the mother of God, which sounds like a very Christian thing. That's like Hail Mary, full of grace or something, it's like talk about a different mother of God. We're saying the real mother of God, because what does it mean to mother? To mother means to receive the potential of the Father, to concretize it, add in our unique piece of it, and have it find real expression in the world. And then we can say that the Father exists in the world, because like I exist, I'm an expression of my Father. Now, just in the vernacular, people say, oh, you look just like your father. And people say, oh, no, you just look like your mother. My sister's visiting from Israel. Oh, you and your sister look so much alike. Or you and your sister don't look anything alike. Or you like all the same food, or you always talk the same. All of these things, like we are expressions, even though we're two unique beings, we are both expressions of our parents. We're expressions of our father and of our mother. But in our reality is like we are giving birth in a way to ourselves, just like the mother. She is both the contributor to the child and the birther of the child. That's kind of interesting, unless it's a surrogate, and then that works differently. But otherwise, the mother is contributing her unique part, and she's also providing the space and making a reality for that to come together and create this new, unique human being. Think about that. I have to say, when I heard this, it kind of blew my mind in such a different way of thinking about who we are. Like, who am I in this world? When I say, people say, oh, God is in everybody. I don't think people are really thinking about what that really means. What does that mean to say, not just God is in everybody, we are an expression of God in this world, which is why we have a responsibility to make that manifestation a good one. We don't want to introduce defects into that expression. So just like when a child brings nachas to his or her parents, why do parents care what their children do? It's like, hey, I gave birth to you, might as well be like a bird, go fly off and do whatever you want to do. Why do parents care? Part of it is just like an innate thing, is because you are an expression of me. Now, obviously that can go crazy, and you can have a parent who, if the child doesn't turn out to be just like them, they can't accept the kid, or, whatever those kind of distortions are of what that means. But underlying it, the kernel of truth is the child is an expression of the parents. And when that happens, that's like where you're a credit to your parents or you're not a credit to your parents. What does that mean? It means you are manifesting what they contributed to you, value-wise, biologically, all of that, that you are using it in the way that makes them proud that they contributed what they contributed to you. Does that make sense? Any thoughts or questions just about that? Okay. So with that in mind, we've now just been empowered. If you walk around, now again, this is for a man or a woman, and to say, I am the mother of God in this world. It's like, whoa, that is a serious, amazing, elevating, and empowering and awesome task. This task was not given to the cows, the ducks, or the chickens. This was given to human beings. And we know this because we already know this, because we have the language in the Torah that describes the human beings being created, B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. What does that mean? It's not just like a distant reflection. It means like my kid is B'Tselem me. And so I am connected to that in a much deeper, real way than just some esoteric spiritual concept. We're talking about fundamentals. Hello, Etta. So in this way, it's like we are literally mothering God, meaning that we are bringing the expression of God into this world that God has contributed to us. Infinite, unique possibilities, just like all that sperm, infinite, unique people who could be created with that sperm. We are kind of like, we received God's sperm of potential and expression, and we're responsible for being the mother of it. Now, it's interesting that in a way, once the father gives that potential to the mother, he doesn't have so much control over what happens. You know, it's the mother who takes the prenatal vitamins. It's the mother who goes to the doctor visits. It's the mother who's monitoring her sugar and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And I always find it kind of funny when a man will say, we're pregnant, meaning he and his wife. It's like, actually, that's not exactly true. She's pregnant. Okay, you contribute the sperm. So yes, she is carrying. He should really say, she is carrying my child. That is true. Or the expression of who I am, but it's not we. So in a way, it's like, who's we? Who has the stretch marks and who has the labor and delivery? It's not the sperm donor. So it's not that. However, this is an entrusting, and that's actually considered an entrusting of the father to the mother, of like handing over. I'm handing you my potential for self-expression in this world for you to nurture and define and bring to fruition. That's huge concept. God has basically said the same thing to us. I am giving you my divine self, and I am trusting you to mother it and nurture it and bring it to full concrete reality. Now, I think that's pretty amazing of God to take that chance, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I wonder, like, what does a father feel if a mother is like, becomes like a drug addict or is, you know, abusive of her body and doing damage to his expression of his potential? There's not so much he can do. There's not really so much he can do. She's kind of in control. She's in the driver's seat on that. So who's in the driver's seat of this expression of the divine? We are. And we also have an accountability and a responsibility, because if you're carrying something for somebody else, you have a responsibility for how you're doing that. It's kind of like you have a responsibility. Just like if you gave me a package to deliver, I have a responsibility as the deliverer of that package. So if God is giving us this, then we have an accountability and a responsibility for what we do with it. So sometimes we do well, and sometimes we don't do so well. And Yom Kippur is about, first of all, having Rosh Hashanah and reminding ourselves, like, why do we have Rosh Hashanah before Yom Kippur? For 101 reasons. But since the opening of Rosh Hashanah is the reminder, God is our Father, meaning our source of this potential, and has impregnated me, if you will. I don't know, maybe this is like how Christianity gets started with like divine, you know, whatever. It's like they almost have it, almost, but not quite. But there's an aspect of reality. It's like God has impregnated me with potential, and therefore I receive that as a gift. And so Rosh Hashanah is a reminder of like, you need to know who you are. And you're not just your half of the, it's like when parents get upset with their children and they refer to the child as the other parent's child, like your child did such and such. It's like, hello, it's your child too. It's like, well, the way they're acting, I don't take any credit for that. So when we're saying like that, Hashem is like, I want to take credit for you. You have to remind yourself who your parents really are. And God is the father and we are the mother. So we're the mother and we are accountable to the father of how we're raising our child, which is us. So we are both the contributor to it as well as the birther of it. So it's interesting that Yom Kippur then is the time when we evaluate how we're doing in manifesting this reality. How much of an expression am I of my parents' contributions, meaning your own parents, your physical parents, and your ultimate parents, which is God and you yourself, giving birth to you. And so that is what we're taking stock of on Yom Kippur and going through a list of how are we measuring up and where do we need to make corrections along the way for that expression. Because we want to give nachas to the parents. And this isn't just like, you went to grad school and became a doctor or lawyer kind of nachas. It's like, did you manifest? Are we manifesting the divine potential that is in us? And is it combined with are we doing ourselves justice and are we doing God justice? And it's not just God, it's not God sitting up in the sky with have you been naughty or nice? It's not that. Do you see how this takes it out of that realm? It's God's essence itself that is dependent, just as the father is dependent on the mother for nurturing his potential and bringing it into the world. That's the relationship. So the Jewish people, all of humanity, we are the mother of God in this world. Wild, right? Thoughts, comments, Etta?
I've never heard anything like it. I thought it was Christianity.
Christianity kind of gets things. I don't think they were really working with this concept at all. That they were not working with this concept. This is, and just so you know, this isn't like a new agey Jewish thing. This is from Rabbi Mordechai Moshe Shapiro, and as learned by me from Rebbitzin Esther Weed. It was like, wow, I never, ever, ever thought about it in this way. This changes the equation dramatically. It's so empowering because when we wake up every day, think about what we say. So the clues are all there. I just had never connected the dots in that way and with this language. So we know that God has given us ourselves and the world as a metaphor. We're the metaphor and God is the ultimate reality. So God gives us the way human beings procreate as a way to help us understand more cosmic level things that are going on. Because because otherwise, how do you describe the giver of infinite potential for self-expression? What does that even mean? It's like, just like all the people in the world, there's like infinite variety of self-expression. Unless I have that experience, I can't relate to that. So we're the example of this reality so that we can understand the concepts. So to say, I'm the mother of God, that is so empowering. So again, to how we already know this. So we know every morning when we get up that we say, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam. I am grateful before you, God, the King, the ruler of the universe, that you have returned my soul to me. Shehazarta bi nishmati bechemla rabba emunatecha, and that you have great mercy on me. And it says rabba emunatecha. Great is your emuna, your God's trust in me, not my trust in you, God. You, God's trust in me. What is God trusting us to do each day? Mother God's self in us. and to make it a concrete reality. So we talk about tikkun olam, repairing the world, fixing the world. And not that there's not a lot of things that need to be fixed. There are so many things that need to be fixed. But the world will not be fixed just if we have zero carbon footprint. That is not the ultimate fixing. It won't be fixed if we have, everybody recycles. And that's not going to ultimately fix it. That's going to be part of it. But the tikkun, to l'takein also means to prepare something, to prepare it for use, is ourselves. Because it says l'tikkun olam b'malchut shaddai, to prepare the world for the kingship of God, which means to express heaven on earth. And that means it starts with me. Everyone says, oh, she's a project. Well, the truth is we're all a project. Like, we're the project. We are the olam that is being worked on, that we're working on. And on Yom Kippur, God is saying, I invested myself in you. I trust you. And I'm going to give you a day where I'm going to alter reality in a way that you have the possibility to perceive this reality more clearly. So I'm going to mute your physicality, which gets in the way of a lot of things, and elevate your spiritual connection. So only on Yom Kippur, we have 5 services. It's the only holiday in the whole year, the only day of the year. So a regular day has 3 services. Our days start at night. So it starts with Mariv, the evening service. And then we have Shachrit in the morning, and we have Mincha in the afternoon. On Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, and all the other holidays, we have a 4th, which is Musaf, the additional service, okay? When I was growing up, that was like when we walked into synagogue, was when Musaf was starting, like the end of the service. Only on Rosh Hashanah are there 5. And the 5th service is Ne'ilah. And that's the highest part of Yom Kippur. People think of it as Kol Nidre. That's where everybody shows up. Kol Nidre, that's just the launching of it. It's Ne'ilah, that 5th service where we make contact with our 5th level of soul that is we're not usually able to climb to that level of connection. But on Yom Kippur, when our bodily strength is so diminished, it says the only day the Yetzer Hara is not operating. We don't have any opposing force, only on Yom Kippur. And we get to this 5th level, and then we conclude the service with words that we don't ever say any other time of the year. We say, Adonai Hu HaElohim, God is God. It's like as if the lights go on, the curtains part is like, oh, it's you. Like, the rest of the time is like it's cloud. There are veils. There are veils that keep us from seeing and perceiving that reality. By Ne'ilah, when we're feeling our most miserable, our most worn out physically, we should actually celebrate that misery if we can, and realize that it goes hand in hand with deep spiritual connection. And if we could take our minds and just say, okay, headache, rumbling stomach, sore back from standing, swollen feet, good sign. That means I'm like, my body is down and my neshama is up and it's reconnected. That's what the atonement is. It's a reconnection and it's a rebirth. So we treat Yom Kippur like more of a birthday actually than Rosh Hashanah. So on Rosh Hashanah is like God is the creator, God is the father. But on Yom Kippur is when we say we are new. Like that's why people dress in white. It's at that purification. People go to the mikvah and immerse. We strip ourselves. We can't show up to shul naked, but we come like the next best thing. No makeup, just very basic so that we understand who we are. Because if I don't know who I really am, how can I become what I'm supposed to be? I have to have a day where I reconnect to that. So I'm given a full day. It's a day of your neshama. And that's why it's called Shabbat Shabbaton, the Shabbos of Shabboses, complete rest from engagement in the physical world. So on a regular Shabbos, it's engagement from creative effort and expression. But on Yom Kippur, It's Shabbos plus. You engage your body in the most minimal way possible to turn to the neshama channel and focus on that. It's like, oh yeah, that's who I am. If that's who I am, then the behaviors, the things I've been doing incorrectly doesn't really match up with who I am. It's not I've misbehaved, I've misunderstood who I was. If I misunderstand who I am, then by definition, I'm going to probably be making mistakes. It's like when you know who you are, then it's like, wait, I'm God in this world. I'm God in this world. Is that behavior appropriate for that? So that's what Yom Kippur is, where we refocus on, I want to mother God. I want to be the mother of God in this world. Doesn't that sound like so holier than thou? Except it's not. It is holy that you are. It's like God tells us, Kadoshim Tihi, and God tells us that too in the Torah. Kadoshim Tihiyu ki kadosh ani. You shall be holy because I'm holy. No. I remember in our family, I'm sure everybody grew up with family rules. In our family, we couldn't say shut up. In our family, you couldn't call somebody stupid. In our family, if you said these things, you got your mouth washed out with soap. Like we had the family rules. And if I'm in this family, I do that because that's what our family is. So God is kind of saying, you are holy because I'm holy. It's not you shall be as much as you will be because I am, and you're a chip off the old block, and you are an expression of me in this world. Therefore, there needs to be some sort of a parallel expression of who you are in this world. And if not, it needs to be corrected. And that's what we're going to do. And, I appreciate that we're not a religion that, rakes ourselves with knives or walks on coals or do anything like that for atonement and repentance. We knock. This is our idea of a major pain. It says, but that knock it's not to hurt us, it's to wake us up. It's like, hello, I'm knocking on your door to remind you who you are and where you come from. So people want to know where they come from. Like, why do people do 23andMe? Like, they want to know, oh, I found out my relative was the first woman who was the mayor of her town and blah, 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 the 19th century, whatever it might be. I don't know. I'm just making that up. And then people feel empowered. And so I've decided I'm going to become active in politics and do ABC, whatever it is. Or my grandfather was a violinist and I always felt musical, but now I'm going to take violin lessons. Whatever it might be, people feel empowered by knowing what their roots are and where they came from and what their potential is. If you don't know, you might stumble across it. Maybe you will. But why not know, like, of what you're made, so that you can totally make that manifest. So there are people who are able to do that. So I gave the example, every once in a while you'll read about somebody artistic, natural born artist. And from the time they're 3 years old, they're picking up a piece of, they could live in a remote forest and they're picking up a piece of coal and, drawing pictures on rocks, whatever it might be. And they are an artist no matter where they are. As opposed to me, I'd need, like, my paints would have to be perfect. I'd have to have the right paper. I'd have to have an art lesson. I'd have to have good lighting. I'd have to be in the mood, so all of these other things. That's if you don't have the stuff, the wherewithal, so then you need all these other things to prop it up. But someone who's a natural, they find their way. And then if they're given a structure to develop it, they can go even farther. There's no reason why I just have to use a piece of coal on a rock. I can actually put you in an art studio. But if you don't even know that you're the natural artist, then why would you even think about it? On Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, these 10 days of Shuvah is where we focus on who are we really? Because we're really the natural artist and we're really the natural expression of the divine in this world. Just, we didn't see it. We didn't see it. Or it got covered up with other things. And we got distracted. So on Yom Kippur, we take away all the distractions. Think about how much of your day you spend either thinking about or preparing for eating or drinking. It takes up a lot of our time. Buying for it, preparing it, eating it, cleaning up from it, getting ready for the next thing. It's huge. It's a huge distraction. The physical world is amazing and we love it. We are not anti-physical world. And at the same time, it is a tremendous distraction. So on Yom Kippur, that's the other purpose of kind of muting these things is you don't need to think about this now. You just can focus. It's more like being on a retreat, and we are retreating from the physicality in order to connect to something higher. That's our goal, and that's what we have the potential to do on this Yom Kippur. So each time when we go through the services, I have to say, sometimes it feels redundant. It's like, can we just do this same Ashamnu, Bagadnu? Like, how many times do you have to say that, before like it sinks in? It's like, yeah, but this is like going around a mountain in a circular way. And you keep going, you're kind of passing the same point over and over again, but you're seeing it from a higher perspective. And so each time we say it, it's like, okay, you said it at this level. That's not the same thing as when you see it the next level, or when you circle around and see it next, or by the end of the Ne'ilah, it's like, whoa. Like when you get to the top of the pass, you see something different. Even if you've been on all the switchbacks, you see something different each time. So it looks repetitive, but it isn't repetitive. Except that because our machzors and our prayer books are written in a linear fashion, it feels redundant because we may not realize exactly what's happening and what the opportunity is for us. So I admit, I think this takes a lot of concentration to have this focus and to be able to get to that level. But that's the gift that we've been given is this day. And we're told the day itself helps us through. It's like getting onto an elevator. You don't have to know how elevators work in order to get to the top floor. You just get in, you push the buttons, and there you are. So we just get in, do the things, and it has potential to get us a lot there, a lot there. Thoughts and questions about our mothering ourselves and Yom Kippur, what gets in our way? Why do we trip up so much? What a process it is. It's like you see every Yom Kippur is like, oh, why am I dealing with the same issue again? It's like, didn't I take care of it last year? As I say, same song, next verse. It's like, yeah, there'll be another version of it in a different way. And our goal is really only to be on a growth, on a trajectory. We don't need to be at the top. We just don't want to be standing still. So even if our changes are very incremental and very small, that's just fine. God is infinitely patient. Ideas and thoughts about Yom Kippur or about the fasting or anything else that is of interest to you? Hi, Dorothy.
Hi.
So when we think about what gets in our way, it's when we forget also when we say that God is Melech, that God has supreme and supremacy over all power and all resources. So this is the difference between thinking that your last name is Roth versus Rothschild. If you know you were a Rothschild, like, I don't need to compete with anybody. I have plenty of resources. I'm very wealthy. I can be generous. I can be expansive. I can be all of that. If my last name is Roth, then maybe not. Maybe I have to count every penny and be very careful and be very concerned about somebody else trying to get money from me. And I'm getting taken advantage of, or I have to be in a dog-eat-dog world. But if your Father is the one who has the infinite credit card available, and you don't have any worries. So you can be in the world in a much different way. You don't have to be in survivor mode. You can be in creator mode. Creator mode is by definition expansive and infinite. And survivor mode is by definition looking at things from a place of scarcity. And if there's a place of scarcity of spirit, scarcity of resources, scarcity of everything else, then I have to be very concerned about what everybody else is doing to me. And that their advance is to my detriment, and there's not enough for everybody. And so I have to be upset and concerned and jealous about that. But if I'm working with an infinite account, what's it to me? There's more where that came from. My mother used to even say that. We girls would fight over whatever it was. She goes, there's more where that came from. You know, like, you don't have to fight over this. Don't have to fight over this. There's more where that came from. And that's our answers. Hashem, it's like we're Rothschilds. There's more where that came from. So that is a complete mindset shift. It takes us into being able to be totally happy with what other people have. It can take us to a place of being not nervous about what we have and not feeling threatened. And again, in survivor mode. The survivor mode makes people anxious, depressed, angry, hostile, competitive, and nervous. It's like, who even wants to live like that? So it's like, relax. Avinu Malkeinu. Your Father is the master of all resources. All resources. So that's our Yom Kippur. So we tend to get so focused, including me, what am I going to eat before the fast so then I don't get too hungry during the fast? What am I going to have to break the fast? You know, and not too much because I don't want to feel sick, but I know I'm going to be hungry and be just, it's like, okay, yes, that is part of it. But that would be basically missing the main idea of the whole opportunity. So Yom Kippur has this potential, this great day. And it's considered also, again, remember that on Yom Kippur is when the Jewish people received the second tablets. That's when Moshe went back up to Mount Sinai. 40 days later, came down on Yom Kippur with the second tablets, with full forgiveness for the sin of the golden calf. So that always gets a little bit overshadowed, other than the repetition also of the 13 attributes of mercy. I am God, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, that whole thing, the 13 attributes of mercy, which were shared with Moses, with the forgiveness for the sin of the golden calf and with the giving of the second tablets. So this is our reminder that no matter how badly we mess up, because the sin of the golden calf was a pretty big mess up. Like, no matter how badly we mess up, God's like, let's carve another set. In other words, let's try this again. Let's try this again. And I think that that's the ultimate inspiration, is we may have a hard time forgiving ourselves, but God is always wants, let's try this again. Like, seriously, I'm 65 years old. How many chances does a person get? It's like a lot, hopefully to 120. And there's always more and more expression that can be concretized in this world. So hopefully we will go into Yom Kippur with this different metaphor about literally being the mother of God, and knowing that the potential, the unique expression has been given to you and you alone, of the version that you contribute yourself to God's infinite variation as well, to create a unique version of the divine in this world. And that is what pains us over the death of somebody, is that their expression in this world is no longer here. Except that if they convey it and it is lived by the people who come after them, or by their friends or people that they influenced, that remains always in this world. For sure, it remains in God's world, but even better if it remains physically concretized in this world. So when we do something in memory of somebody, that's actually what we're saying, is I am continuing the concrete expression of this person's life in this world. And that's why it's an aliyah, an elevation for their neshama, because as long as their neshama keeps getting expressed in this world, then in a way they remain infinitely alive. Because that's the definition of life, is expression in this world of potential. So God willing, we will have a year filled with the blessing and opportunities to manifest God's unique version of God's self in us. That we contribute our part, God contributes God's part, and we both are the contributors and the motherers of that reality. And that is what will make the world a better place. Each of us has our own kind of style that we bring to it. And it's amazing how many variations there can be. I'll just share something. You know, we're building an apartment in Israel. So we have extra weight in our luggage that we can bring. And so we called our apartment coordinator, designer person and said, okay, we have extra weight. Is there something that we should bring from the States that we can put in our luggage that'd be less expensive here or whatever? So he said, yes. Sinks, kitchen sinks, literally kitchen sink, and kitchen faucet. So I'm like, okay. So I said, can you give us an idea of like what we should do? So he sent us some links. So I went to the links, but then went to the sites. I can't even, I'm sure you know if you've done any kind of, do you know how many different kinds of sinks there are? It is not totally infinite, but close to infinite. It's like, it's a sink. What is there to say about a sink? Well, you know, there's divided in half, divided in thirds, big and little, apron, this, stainless. There are so, I'm like, I'm happy to have somebody help us just to narrow it down, because otherwise, like, how do you even choose? And then we went to look at faucets. Like, a faucet, seriously? All I want is water to come into my sink. What is the big deal? You know, hundreds of sinks that are faucets that are all basically one basic design, but with something a little different, something a little unique. It's like, it was a great lesson. It's like, there is so everything, unless you're in a like communist government place, humanity is designed to manifest variety. It's almost like we cannot help ourselves. You did it, it goes like this, mine goes like that. You know, whatever it is, there is all of this variety. I'm like, wow, if that's true with a finite kitchen sink or a finite faucet, how much more so for a living, breathing human being? So who we are and our uniqueness, we should just treasure and be the best version of ourselves, because there's no one else who can do us the way we can do ourselves. So it's not like, I'll let them be me. It's like, not happening. So the only one to do us is us. So God is entrusting us with that. And our job is to present the best version of that to the world. We have God's gift. God gave God's self to us, and our gift back is what we do with it. Same thing. The mother receives the sperm. Everyone would be very, very disappointed if 9 months later she gave back exactly what she had received. That would be a big disappointment. So our job is to give back, like, now that's a child. So our job is to, like, that is a birth. So we should be blessed to do that. Yes, Etta.
Just a question. I'm so sorry I missed the beginning of this lesson because I've never heard anything like it.
I hadn't either. Yes, thank you.
It's amazing. But what about men? What do they mother?
They mother also. So because it's a concept rather than limited to, so human beings are the mothers of God. God is the father to all of humanity and giving that potential. I'm giving this potential to you. And we as humanity receive it and contribute our unique part to it and give birth to what that expression, combined expression, looks like. So it's not limited by, are you a man or a woman? It's called masculine and feminine. So masculine is giving of potential. Feminine is adding my piece, my part, nurturing it, and giving a concrete expression of it. That's what mothering means. So that could be done by, that's not male or that's not man or woman defined. We just know about it because we have men and women and we have that, like, we're the metaphor for that. Our procreation process is the metaphor for what God is doing with us. Yes.
One more question about New Year's resolutions. What do you think about them? And do you go into them, or do you say that's silly?
Oh, no, it's very important. So in Judaism, it's called a Kabbalah, which means to accept or to receive something on yourself. And it is an intention to do something. I can tell you what our sages say about a Kabbalah. It needs to be something very, very, very small. So the list of resolutions, they would say, really bad idea. So they would say, pick one thing in one area that is the most important to you and break it down into the tiniest thing that you can do on a consistent basis. It is way more important to pick something that you can, I mean, now in psychology, they would say something so you can have a lot of wins, that you can have success, and that you can do it on a consistent basis. That is what grows us. Our Yetzer Hara is actually the one responsible for overdoing it in the resolution. It's be like, oh, you know, you can resolve to do this, 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 and this. And what it does is sets us up for failure. And that's just what the Yetzer Hara wants. It's like, good, I'll get her like so off track, she won't do any of it. She'll get so discouraged and she'll be back to square one. So it's almost as if we want to pick something that's under the radar screen, that the Yetzer Hara would be like, oh, I'm not going to bother about her about that. All she said is that she was going to, you know, open the Birkat Hamazon book and look at that for the first line of benching. Like, that's nothing. I won't bother on that. So great rabbis have written in, I will pay attention to the first line of Birkat Hamazon, of the grace after meals. That's from somebody who's already steeped in greatness. It's like, that's your Kabbalah? Because then the Yetzer Hara is like, you call that a resolution? What kind of a nutnik are you? That's not even anything. So the Yetzer Hara gets us even in our resolutions of, yeah, you resolved that I'm losing 10 pounds and I'm always be nice. I'm never talking Lashon Hara again. And I'm going to be kind to everybody. I'm never losing my temper. It's like, you're an idiot. Or it's like, you take something small, it's like, that's in the resolution. That's like not anything. It's like, you're right. It's nothing. Don't even, nothing to see here, Yetzer Hara. You could just leave me alone because that's not even a resolution. So just goodbye. So yeah, pick something really, really small. Really small.
Thank you.
And small steps make great progress. Really great progress. And we ourselves don't even pay attention to how, you know, things have changed. And we know that small steps add up over time. Even when, you know, you haven't seen somebody in a long time, the people who are around them all the time, they don't notice that the person has changed. But somebody who hasn't seen somebody for a long time is like, wow, you know, they've really changed or something. It's like, I didn't really notice it. So we want to do something that's barely noticeable, but that is a something. Is that helpful? Okay. All right, ladies, I will, God willing, see you either the beginning of November or the last week of October. And so we're leaving for Israel, God willing, on Sunday morning, and hopefully having a new baby. Our daughter-in-law is expecting number 6, and she's going to fast on Yom Kippur because the halacha is if you are in your 9th month, you fast on Yom Kippur, even though that can trigger, because it's not going to hurt the baby. You're done. She's done. The baby is ready. So fasting often will trigger labor and delivery. So it could be, but she's due like on Sunday. So it doesn't really make a difference. So God willing, we're having a baby and a bat mitzvah, and hopefully we're having a healthy time. That's all I really care about. Healthy, safe time. So I will really look forward to seeing you. And then I told everybody, the people who were on initially, I apologize for the logistics issues with getting in. I'm not sure what is going on. I will be in touch with the administrative staff, and the email hadn't gone out. I'm not sure why that happened. We do have a new admin person, so I'm not sure if something got lost in the translation with holidays or what, but I will see to it that all that is taken care of, and that we go back to just a regular email with a regular Zoom link and not a Google something that is above my pay grade to understand, and that we will resume, and that you know when the classes will resume. As soon as I know if the women's trip is happening, then I will know when I'm returning. So in the meantime, I want to wish you a meaningful and easy fast. I hope that whatever physical discomfort you experience only is in direct proportion to the spiritual connection that you will also feel and be able to register, and that you are able to hear your neshama's call to you, and can answer that call, the knock at the door, and have a meaningful experience, and also a very happy, joyful Sukkot. And just to conclude is that Sukkot some people, before they even break their fast, do something to build their sukkah. Because we say after we reconnect and we are like, okay, now I know who I am, the very first thing I want to do is to do something concrete. So after a day of spiritual connection, and now I know who I am, the whole point of it is to bring it down to earth and bring it home into something physically real. That real thing is Sukkot. So whether you do that way or soon after, that holiday of building and sitting in the structure that represents the reality we want to create, that is what that holiday is all about. And that's what brings us the ultimate simcha, the ultimate happiness that we hopefully can celebrate. So Chag Sameach ×2 for Yom Kippur and Sukkot. And I will look forward to seeing you either at the end of October or the beginning of November.
Well, Ellyn, thank you for everything that you do. And
oh, my pleasure.
Travel safe, geh gesund, komm gesund, and
amen. Thank you.
Mazel tov and all the wonderful things that are happening.
Thank you. B'sha'a tova, God willing, at the right time.
Thank you, Ellyn.
Thank you for you.
Thank you. And thank you all for being you. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you. Thanks, Susan. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have too much fun.